Hi, my name is Janelle Finch. I was born in Chicago and grew up in the southwest suburbs. I really, really like word games. People probably don't know that, and there are more word games than just Wordle. I want to point that out. I love Scrabble. I love the New York Times mini crossword. I love Spelling Bee. I really, really, really like word games. I'm also a huge fan of music, and I like to say that my music style is pretty diverse. I like alternative R&B, I like rap, I like pop. It just kind of really depends on the day, but I like a lot of music, and I also like to just relax. I am really, really social. I'm really, really smiley and bubbly, but my social battery does run out fairly quickly. So when I do have time to just decompress and relax, and whether that be watching a Netflix show on the couch or, just scrolling through nonsense reading on my iPad at the end of the day, I do really like to relax and just kind of find myself. So I like to be social, but I also have a part of me that also likes to, be pretty quiet, which you wouldn't peg for when you first meet me. But I do like to be very quiet at the end of my days. A lot of people don't know that, but that's me in a nutshell. My name's Janelle Finch. I'm a reporter for KREM 2. Let's talk. I am proud to be a Black, successful woman because I see myself as being a representation for the struggles my Black ancestors went through the civil rights movement, through slavery, through times before that. I am the physical embodiment of their struggles, which is a weight to carry, but I'm honored to carry that weight because not everybody has that cultural background to relate to, that racial background to relate to. And, being a Black woman, I am making strides every single day to change history. There is so much history that still needs to be changed. And it's exciting to be a Black person and have that opportunity every single day to make my mark on the world. So that makes me proud to be Black. In terms of when I first realized I was different, growing up, one of my best friends, and still one of my best friends to this day, was white. She was the first friend I made. My parents always talk about the moment we first moved into our house. It was a hot summer day in July. I walked into the house and I walked straight through the back door to the house behind me because I probably heard some dogs or something. And when they went to go check on me, I came back and I already had made a friend. And that one friend, like I said, is still one of my best friends to this day. And she is white. But of course, as a 3-year-old just trying to make it through daily life, I'm not necessarily thinking about the things that make me different from my peers. I'm just out here to be social and make friends. Like my mom always tells me that when I was younger, I would just go up to people and be like, "Hi, my name's Janelle. Do you want to be my friend?" And more often than not, kids, they don't have as much cultural awareness as some of their parents do. So, it's just to them, another person coming up to them and saying, "Do you want to be my friend?" "Yeah, I want to be your friend." But there was a specific time when my mom did tell me that. I went up to somebody asking, "Do you want to be my friend?" And they said no. Totally fair, totally fine. And then you think back on those moments and you kind of wonder, why? So I would say the real first moment that I personally realized I was different was in middle school, when everyone's starting to wear makeup and experimenting with different things. And I remember going into Walgreens and not finding my foundation shade. And that was just simply because, I just chalked it up to being, well, in a white town, of course they're not gonna have my shade because not enough people are buying it. Like, that just kind of makes sense. So I had to order my makeup online because I couldn't find it physically in the stores. When I would go into the inner city, I was able to find, a lot more shades, so it was a lot easier that way. But that was definitely the first moment when I realized, oh, yeah, I am a Black person living in this white space. Like I said, I'm really, really proud of what I do every day, because there aren't enough people who look like me who are doing the things that I'm doing. But not everybody celebrates that and what that really means. It's crazy how people will look at you for the things that you normally do and the things that just are natural about yourself and find fault with it or reason to not pay attention or turn off their TV. So I just started at KREM. I'm officially going on month 2 of living in Spokane, and before I got here, I was doing some recruitment meetings back at school, and it is so insane to think about how people are still so stuck in such a traditionalist mindset of not accepting people for who they are in any space, let alone TV. Every day as a TV personality, you're being judged by your audience. Not every job has that same level of exposure. So in one of my recruitment meetings, I spoke with a recruiter, and immediately after he watched my 1 minute, 30-minute reel or whatever, he said to me, I pretty much couldn't pay attention to your reel because your hair kept changing too much. So I couldn't pay attention to what you were saying. And you're just like, what? So in that first minute that he told me that, it's just kind of like, okay, so then the meeting is over, essentially, because you're just telling me you didn't hear anything I was saying because my hair changed too much. And it was the fact that before I put that reel together, I had to mentally say to myself, okay, Janelle, line up clips where your hair does not change as much. So I'll have my hair in a slick back bun here, then I'll do a slick back ponytail here, natural hair here. Just try and keep it to some level of consistency. And so to hear that is just kind of like, really? Like, are you serious? Like, we're still having these conversations. Like, I can't express myself with my hair because it's too distracting to you. You couldn't hear any of my stories for a full minute and a half. You couldn't hear anything from my reel. What? And, my hair changes day to day, just like anybody else's. There are good hair days and there are bad hair days. Some days my hair's frizzy, some days it's not, like anybody else. I'll put it in a ponytail some days. I'll put it in a bun some days. But it's still me. I'm still telling an important story. But you say that you can't hear it? Like, that is crazy to me. So coming out here, I wanted to let everybody know I'm coming with my natural hair. Like, this is the Janelle you're gonna see on your screen. Curls and all, because that's who I am. And I don't want it to be a conversation later on of, oh, whoa, Janelle changed up her hair. Who is this reporter? I've never seen her before. No, I'm coming to you as my full natural self, 100% from out the jump, because you need to know now who I am, who's gonna be on your screen for the next X amount of months, X amount of years. This is her. Pay attention. Listen to me. It's just frustrating that we even have to think like this. It's ridiculous. Because other people don't have these struggles. They don't have to think like this. They don't have to worry if, like, someone's gonna call in and be like, get that black girl off my screen. I can't hear her. Her hair's too loud. It's too big. It's too distracting. But every single day I come into work, at the end of the day, I am just waiting for that phone call from somebody saying that I'm too black to be on their screen, or my hair is too big, or they just don't want black people on TV. I'm just waiting on it. It's not a question of if, it's, a question of when. And it's really, really hard when you're proud of your job, you're proud to be doing the work that you do, you're proud to be a pillar in the community, be somebody that Black people in the community can look up to and see themselves on TV. And you wait on people to have a problem with it because you just know somebody will. And that is the real problem. So coming to the Inland Northwest as a single Black woman was definitely a change. Coming from Chicago, obviously I'm more accustomed to bigger cities, more people, just kind of more life in general. There's a different pace of life in Chicago versus here. But every time somebody asks me, what's it like being in Spokane versus, being from back home, I always say it's like comparing apples to oranges. Like, Spokane is a very, very special orange in, like, you really can't compare it to anything else, or at least anything else that I've experienced. It's a really, really nice pace of life. A little bit slower. People appreciate the trees more. People slow down to look at the mountains. And of course, we didn't have that back in the city, where you guys have trees, we had skyscrapers. It's really, really hard to compare, but I am really, really excited to be out here. In these first 2 months that I have lived out here, I have gotten more connected with nature, and I have slowed down to, look at the mountains and things like that. It's a really, really nice place to spend time. Now, while things can get crazy in Spokane in terms of like what we report on, there are really, really nice days when the sun comes out and you can walk through Riverfront Park, you can go to the mall, you can spend time outside. Even in the winter, people spend time outside, which is different for me. But it's been really, really nice out here. And now in terms of being Black in Spokane, I worked really, really hard when I first got here to find my community, whether that was reaching out to the other Black TV reporters I've seen out here, or finding the NAACP chapter. I'm a part of a Black sorority, so immediately I found those sorority members and just really, really tried to find my Black people out here, because when I first came to Spokane, they were Black people, hard to find. So I made it a mission, like, okay, I'm going to take on this endeavor as a young 22-year-old at the time, and I am going to find my place. Somehow, some way, I am not going through these next 2 years in Spokane lonely. I will find people, and that's exactly what I did. So, even just the other day, I got drinks with one of the Black reporters at another station. I'm getting dinner with another one of my sorority members. I'm finding Black people out here because, as a Black person, there are just some things that only Black people can relate to, and it's always nice when you can look around a room and see Black people as opposed to that normativity of just seeing all white people and being that Black spot. There are many Black spots when you're with Black people, and that's a really beautiful thing. And I'm finding it in Spokane. Slowly but surely, I am finding it. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody truly likes to be alone. At some point in your life, you're like, I need to find somebody, whether that is, being a part of a ski Facebook group. That's why we have so many Facebook groups for people of different communities, so people can find other people who relate to them, whether it be on interests or backgrounds, anything like that. So it's so important to have community and people you can rely on, whether that just be because, we look similar, whether because we work in similar fields. For me, having Black people around me just makes me feel more at home. Like, I'm not the person to stick out. As a group, we stick out, maybe, but I'm not the sole person carrying that weight of being the only Black person in the room. So community is super important just for making those connections and occupying those spaces. When you talk about Black history, it goes so deep. Like, there are no amount of documentaries, no amount of textbooks that can really, truly touch on all the things Black people have done to shape this country and countries outside of this one. You can only begin to imagine like how much has happened on a minute scale outside of, George Floyd protests, outside of civil rights marches, outside of Martin Luther King Jr., W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells. There are so many Black historical figures that are making moves even today. Like Black History Month, okay, is in February, right? We talk about the things that have happened in the past, but history is being made by Black people every single day. Our vice president is Black, is a Black woman. That just happened. Like, history is still being made today. And it is so important that we talk about it because people don't know everything that Black people are doing in the shadows. So much of this country has been contributed to by Black people. And we simply can't just limit it to just being a month to talk about. There's so much. We could fill the entire year. If we wanted to really talk about Black history, we could fill an entire year of it. So much more than just 28 days can offer. Like I just said before, being Black in today's time is just being the physical embodiment of people in the past. Like, you think about the horrible things people went through in the civil rights movement, in slavery, and how in those moments, they probably didn't know what was next for them, if the next day was promised. And it's like, now look at us. Because of your struggles way back then, we are giving so much light to being Black today. And I don't think they knew that in the moment. So now, when they're old and gray and, thinking about the days before when they were out in the streets and they were marching and they were protesting and they see people like me and Channing on their screens, I hope they're proud. I hope they're proud. And I hope they also realize that we wouldn't be here without them making those strides first. It's weird to think about how you're making a path for the future as a 23-year-old, just, going to work, living life. But it is also very exciting because people will come up to you and say how thankful they are to see some level of representation on their screens. As Black people, that means a lot. And when I was younger, I would look at people on TV and I would think, that person looks like me, and that means something to me. And it's weird to be on the other side of that now and be that person that people can look up to and see themselves in. And I can only say that my hope for the future is that if somebody is watching me on their screens and they say, oh, I want to be a reporter just like Janelle, I hope and pray that they don't have people who subject them to just what they look like. Like when they get into the industry, I hope people aren't still having the conversation about hair. Like, it grows out of your head. Like, there's nothing you can do about it, whether it's kinky, whether it's curly, whether it's straight, like it just is what it is. So I hope that when young Black people look at me and see themselves, when they want to get into this industry, I hope that, we continue to break down these barriers so it's easier that people of color are able to get on screens and do the things that they like to do the things they enjoy, and tell stories. Because that's all we are, it's just storytellers. We just all look different. There's nothing wrong with that. as long as you pay attention to what we're saying. So I hope that for them, their path into this industry and being accepted by viewers and the audience is a lot easier than what it is right now. And I'm going to work to that. I'm going to help. I'm going to do my part and try and help them to make it easier. When I was in school, we had a thing where you would get extra credit points if you talked to a person of color. Like going outside of just the average white subject, if you were able to find a person of color, you got extra credit points for it. And it's weird to have that kind of incentive to find people with a different perspective, because it's just like, if you have to push yourself to find people of color, maybe you're telling the wrong stories. Maybe we're not telling the stories where a person of color should be the focus, should be the center. So coming out here, you know, always trying to find stories that impact communities outside of just your average white person is really important. Not only for their stories to tell, but also too for me as a Black person. I want to know what Black stories are out there, and I would love to be the person to help tell them. So in terms of finding those stories, it just goes back to finding community and building that community, building those spaces, being in a place where people look at you as somebody to trust and somebody who can tell their story well.